so glad for this country in which I live. We can gather together without any fear of persecution or harm.
It takes a lot of hard work and determination and faith in the Lord to run this operation as we do. Without the good men I got working for me and the family behind me, it would be a real tough job to handle. But I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. As far as I'm concerned, it's the best job a man could have.
Well, that's the end of another good day. I had a nice bunch of fish. Weather's half decent. Sure is a wonder to me how a fella can keep going day after day. Get up early mornings, work late, catching fish. And I guess it's only our faith in God that keeps us going. All that's kept me and my family in this business.
Takin Care, an idea that appeals to Mormons. In Ottawa, Assistant Deputy Minister of Health, Dr. Alex Morrison explains.
You know, these little wooden monkeys, the trio that sees no evil and hears no evil and speaks no evil, illustrates one of the major problems in Canadian society today, for too few of us are sufficiently concerned with the public affairs and the public life of the nation. We in Canada have been abundantly blessed by living in the greatest country in the world, and we have a kind of stewardship responsibility to make certain that we pass on all of the great traditions and heritage and religious freedom that we have to the people who follow after us.
When I read magazines and I find out what's going on around the world, it's just so startling, and I'm so very thankful that I live in Canada, in a free country.
Now I'm living happy, and I continue to live happy all the days of my life.
I think we should be really interested in the government of our country, and I think we should be promoting good causes in our schools and in our communities.
With all the problems in the world, it can get pretty discouraging. And when you think that you have to go through that for the rest of your life, wow. It's nice to know that somebody cares.
And it's good to welcome people. They're searching and they're looking for something that's real and living.
This land was made for you and me.
It's far too important and far too much energy put into this life to have it end when you just die. I think if you don't have hope after this life, then we are desolate people. We have nothing. Why should we put any effort into what we're doing? Why should we really care? Why should we keep the Lord's commandments? Why should we pray? Why should we love if it's only an earthly thing?
The sun comes shining, and I was strolling, and the wheat fields waving, and the dust clouds rolling, as the fog was lifting, a voice was chanting. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From Bona Vista.
It's difficult to argue with the ideas expressed. There's so little that is mystical or obscure. Logical would be a fitting word. Most of us expect the Mormons to be different, somehow foreign. And yet they're more like us, more like the way we want to be than we could ever imagine.
Horses are my weakness. They have led me into one of the most interesting hobbies that I think a person could have, the restoration and driving of some of these beautiful old carriages. And as a Canadian, the highlight of this hobby had to come in '73 when we had the privilege of carrying Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip in this beautiful carriage right here to open the Calgary Stampede. We were also privileged that same year to travel to Salt Lake City with one of our carriages to carry the prophet, seer, and revelator of our church in the Days of 47 parade.
Here's Miss Tanner.
How are you? Hi, it's good to see some fellow Canadian.
Thank you.
Look at this.
We Canadians tend to
good.
think of the Mormons as Americans, and yet the ties with Canada have always been close. President Tanner, a leading figure in the church, is a Canadian, and this country had an important role to play in the beginnings of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. In 1833, Joseph Smith, the founder of the church, came to an area near Brantford, Ontario. It is still remembered it was here that he made friends and won many followers. Later in that same decade, baptisms were held in the waters of Black Creek. These ordinary Canadian men and women were to make an extraordinary impact on the growth of the church. And John Taylor, who joined the church here in 1836, became the third prophet and president of all the Mormons. The Mormon Church, officially known as the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, began to grow. And today, among the 3.5 million members, many of the leaders are Canadian-born. The Mormons tended to leave eastern Canada in the early years, but historian Grant McEwen recalls that Alberta was more fortunate.
The Mormons came with some pretty high ideals. One doesn't live in Alberta without knowing a lot of them because they came early. We can't overlook the part that they played in farming and ranching and irrigation, maybe particularly. Oh, there's so many respects in which they distinguished themselves, and altogether they integrated and became great Albertans.
Remembering pioneer days is Professor Brigham Card, a sociologist at the University of Edmonton and a member of the Mormon Church.
But think of the memories this house brings to the West. Babies born, mounted police, irrigation engineers, all the people who have been here. There was my father who played with Panther Bone, his boyfriend from the reserve. It's given inspiration to a whole host of pioneer Canadians.
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is a church that has always encouraged involvement in society. Each individual is called upon to make the greatest contribution to the world he possibly can, through his intellect, through his skills and talents. There is a need to serve. They are achievers, like the president of Imperial Oil Limited, Jack Armstrong.
There's no question as to the value of the leadership programs, particularly the effort on the part of the church authorities to teach the youth the self-confidence they need to stand up and speak from the pulpit. I've seen this in my own family and the 3 boys that I have, and watched them from the time they were in primary, at the primary age, 4 and 5, give presentations where my eldest son has conducted an entire service without a note. It gives a father a lot of good feeling when he sees that happen. I know in my own case, even though I didn't join the church until my mid-30s, I found that the experience that was forced on me by being requested to do certain things, speaking before congregations, developed a level of self-confidence that has been of inestimable value in today's society.
There was a time when I was in a hurry as you are. I was like you.
They have it a little too easy in the world. If they had to do what I had to do and work hard, settle down and believe in God, give up the nonsense, to work and set your head that there's one mightier than you, there would be a lot of difference in the world today. But we know that everybody has their free agency. You can either be bad or good.
I had the opportunity of being chairman of this whole conference and being able to work along with a committee to plan 3 days of full activities for some 270 kids. Then seeing it all come to touch, I think that's, what this world is all about. People being able to relate to one another.
This is the first time that any group has volunteered to help the community.
And have really done a mammoth job of cleaning up. It's a tremendous service.
I was brought up to believe in very high standards and morals from my mom and dad, as well as to believe in family unity. And when I was Miss Teen Canada, I met a girl from Calgary who had equally as high standards as I. And getting to know her a bit better, I found out she was a Mormon. And she was just the most fantastic person I ever met. And so I started looking into the church, and I thought it was really for me. It was just wonderful. So that's when I joined the church.
There's always an effort to reach outward. Young men are encouraged to give 2 years of their lives to talk with others about Jesus Christ and their church. In the process, they often learn another language. They gain poise and they become capable.
I think as he is on his mission, he learns to meet people, he learns to get along with people, and he learns to appreciate people in different countries. He is in a foreign mission, and he's learning the way the people live in that country.
Est-ce que tu aimes ta nourriture, André? Oui, c'est un petit peu différent que chez moi. On mange pas des telles choses. Est-ce que vous mangez souvent?
And when the missionaries came to my door, I felt very good and very warm about it.
Within the church, there is the belief that human beings working in accordance with God's will can excel far beyond their own capabilities.
It's wonderful to know that people care about each other, that you can work together and coordinate things.
so many areas in the church that we can work together as a family and we can discuss. I go to a Sunday school and we're learning. You can go learn about the Bible or dig down in your past and find out about your ancestors. And then we meet and talk about it. I've always been able to talk to my children because I care about them as individuals. But the church teaches us constantly. First of all, you must love yourself. And when you love and like yourself, you can reach out to others.
天父他希望我们能够向他祷告，这样他可以帮助我们，因为天父是我们的父亲。
It teaches me how to love my parents, how to get along with my friends and the people of my own age group.
We're not just sitting in a pew. We've become active and involved.
Involved. The native peoples of the Western world offer a special focus for the Mormons. At the Blood Indian Reserve, the largest reservation in Canada, 9 Mormon doctors provide the major portion of medical service for the 5,000 Indians. There's nothing about Mormons that would strike the average Canadian as foreign or unusual, except perhaps their willingness to share, especially with Indian children. The reasons lie deep within their faith.
It's been quite an opportunity to have Orton Steinhauer, a Cree Indian from northern Alberta, in our home during the past 6 years. Orton is quite a boy. Our family has really been enriched through this experience by gaining a greater understanding of other peoples and other cultures.
Canadian Indians find a special place within the church. The Book of Mormon, a religious history of the Americas, offers the Indians a sense of cultural continuity and thus a rebirth of their ancient dignity.
To get ready for rodeos like the Calgary Stampede sure takes a lot of work. To be a champion, and I appreciate my family coming out to help me because they're such good critics for me. And I love living here in Alberta. It's such a clean, wholesome place and a good place to bring your family up in.
It is perhaps the most athletic of the Christian faiths, and as a result, a high percentage of Mormons are athletes.
I don't know what's harder, the physical work of training for tennis or working as a recreation director on the Musqueam Reserve. It's the physical work and the mental work together that's a challenge, and I just love both of them.
Playing pro football for the Hamilton Tiger Cats requires me to stay in top physical condition. I especially appreciate the health rules and the emphasis put on sports by our church. The word of wisdom, as we Mormons call it, was given to Joseph Smith in 1833. It advises us to abstain from anything harmful to the body, things like coffee, tea, alcohol, and tobacco. It also urges us to exercise moderation in our eating habits, eat wholesome food, and be physically active.
The many uses of wheat.
The church's teachings on nutrition are surprisingly modern. The average Mormon probably has the most sane and healthy diet in the world.
In this mill.
The lessons are for living, and the lessons are very interesting.
It isn't always easy to be a mother and have teenagers, and I certainly am not the perfect mother. And I realize that I need lots of help. One thing that's helped me greatly has been the lessons that have been given each month by the women's organization in my church. There have been lessons on homemaking and lessons that help me as a mother with the problems I encounter with all my teenagers. And there's been lessons on teaching me how to understand other people's problems and how to give compassionate service to others.
The church has really helped me, really helped me. I'm going to be a winner bringing the kids up, I know that.
The Mormons have no formal ministry or paid clergy. Every member of the church has the opportunity to discuss important religious issues.
A woman's position in the church is unique. I believe a woman's place is in the home, and if she wants enrichment, she should reach out when the kids are at school and always be home when the kids come home from school. But the women in this church are not downtrodden. They're right beside their husbands, and the husbands couldn't do such a good job if it wasn't for the support of their wives.
There's nothing somber about these men and women. Getting together is as important to the Mormons as it is to most Canadians. The fact that their fun seems to be somehow linked to helping others doesn't make the occasion any less enjoyable. It's an active life, and there's so much to be done. But it's not a religion where frowns are mistaken for piety. And at an evening celebrating the Pioneer Days, there's an opportunity to dress up in historic costumes, to meet friends, to dance, and to help those in need. It's an exuberant atmosphere. The Mormons love to dance and sing and have a good time. There's the central idea in the Book of Mormon that all men should be happy. A feeling exists that by being together, by taking an interest in each other, life is enriched.
Visiting teaching, I've always enjoyed doing it, getting to know the sisters really closely and being able to help them with their problems.
I could go into a home and to see a need and to be able to help with that need, to give a sister some cheer when she is down, to help out with the sick. All these things have meant so much to me, and I have received these things in the same way.
When I see them coming, I know that here are people I don't have to put on an act. I can be myself. I can tell them just how I really am feeling, not how I ought to feel, and that they don't criticize and condemn, but they'll understand.
In all that they do, there is the principle of helping, giving a hand. When there's something to be done, there's a tradition of getting together and doing it. You do what you can, as best you can. And after a while, you may get pretty good, as long as you try. No matter who you are, you help. Mormons are counseled not to accept welfare of any type. They prepare for the future in other ways. And the thought of idleness in a world where so much has been left undone just isn't acceptable. For the Mormons, there is a dignity in labor, and it's not just a phrase. That's why you might meet a teacher, a manager, or a lawyer out voluntarily working in the fields. A man or a woman is valued for what they do for the community. The focus is removed from self. There's a practical side to all of the ideas. A year's supply of food and water is to be stored by every Mormon family. If a Mormon is unemployed or if hard times hit, then his family can sustain itself. They can also help others in need. In this idea, as in so many others, you can see the importance of the family unit in their thinking.
Mom, Jennifer's wet again. You better change her.
Oh, come to me, honey. Sweetheart. Oh. I realize that the very greatest career that you can ever have in your life is to be a mother and have the privilege of molding the lives of children into becoming responsible and good citizens who are willing to give of their time and their talents to serve their fellow men.
A stable family life is at the center of the Mormon faith. Divorce is discouraged, and a Mormon parent teaches by setting a good example.
We love our children so much that we want them with us forever. Not just for this period of on-earth life only. I think love is eternal. Spirits are eternal, and the two together are inseparable. And to me, you can't just have an earthly relationship. It's got to be forever.
The Mormons see childhood as a time of preparation. And during this time of preparation, the child needs the attention and care of loving parents more than anything else.
I'm especially grateful for these organizations that involve our young people, involve them in training, involve them in doing things, involve them in recreational activities that are wholesome and uplifting, that will help them someday to not only be good citizens, but be someday capable of being leaders in our country and in our church or wherever they might be.
A ver, Eduardito.
Mi, es Alfredo.
A ver,
Our family believes in family prayer, and every day we have family prayer in our home. And this is a great comfort to me.
The things that matter to Mormons matter to most of us. But whereas much of our society may seem confused, they are seldom confused.
I learned how to be more patient, and also to, in my family, to know how to teach my children how to understand people, and also it teach me how to achieve my goal. It teach me how to use good food. I'm doing exercises with my family because we know that our body is very important and we have to keep it very strong.
The things they do would make some cynics laugh. Many of their views are no longer fashionable, and yet most of it makes quiet, good sense. And many of those who once made fun of the Mormons now look to them for answers. They seem so steady.
I'm a teacher of young children, and working with them every day reminds me of the child which we recently lost. It's an unpleasant experience, but not an unbearable one. Our concept of where we came from, why we're here, and where we're going helps us to overcome our grief.
After I left the temple with a complete new outlook on life, and one of the things that I did realize that I would be with my wife and with children throughout eternity. This has brought much joy to us.
Because I do know and believe with all my heart that these things we are building, a life together with each other and with our family, will go on and live forever. I think this would be a great comfort to me if any tragedy was to come to our family. It helps me to strive a little harder to make a better marriage and to make a better home.
And their marriages last. Again, there is stability.
Well, the thing that most impressed me about the church was the close family ties that we've been able to build up, how well we get along together, and I suppose I'd have to say that there's something in the church for everyone.
I imagine that a Mormon looks at the world and sees confusion. That may tend to reinforce his faith. He sees day by day that his ideas work. He knows that the needs of men and women have always been the same.
I try every day to be a good wife for my husband because I know he grew up too, and we try to be a good wife and a good husband.
I was a heavy smoker and a drinker, spending many nights away from my wife, who I had newly married. Conversion to the church brought about a drastic change in that I no longer spent time drinking with buddies. Rather, I spent time enjoying and learning to live with my wife.
Always, an individual is expected to respect himself quite as much as he respects others.
I guess the thing that we don't express too often to our young people, and particularly fathers to sons, is just some of our deep love for them. As I see them try and do the things that I did when I was young, it reminds me of those days. And there's times when even a little bit of lump comes back into my throat.
On cold nights, when it's below 32, I can snuggle up to my dad and keep warm, and it makes me feel better.
And I think this is one of the reasons why we have so many problems today, is because we're not getting close enough to the people that we're responsible for.
I'm glad that my father took me on the trip. Usually he spends the time at home working on different things. And, you know, it's really great that he'd take me all the way out here.
Well, you see, my dad, he couldn't do without me because, like, he has trouble putting up the tent, and so I have to help put up the tent.
I didn't know my dad was such a good cook. His food is so great, cooking it over an open fire.
There are some special things that happen on this kind of trip. First of all, it brings a great feeling of equality between my sons and myself.
In an unself-conscious way, the Mormons have resolved the historical rivalry between father and son. There's a sense of equality in their relationship and a feeling of mutual respect. A boy learns through example, not through stern authoritarianism. And with his father, he learns through teaching.
Home teaching helps us in a father and son relationship whereby we go out and visit families together. It helps us to relate one to the other, to get to know people, to associate with them, to understand and know their problems, and to help them in a material way, also a spiritual way, whereby we get a greater understanding and appreciation of what life is really all about.
Religious discussions tend to take place within the home. It's as though they regard their family life as evidence of the strength of their faith in what they call the restoration of the original teachings of Jesus Christ. And they have an unusual perspective on the elderly. Since life is such a short part of man's eternal existence, then everyone, regardless of age, is entitled to share in what the Mormons know and what they hold to be true.
If I could give a gift to everybody, it would be the gift that you would have within your heart, the feeling, the knowledge that this life is not for just now, but for eternity. And all the things we do for each other and for others will someday determine how our eternity will be. It's hard for me to express from the bottom of my heart how very deeply I feel about this, and what a wonderful sense of security and well-being this brings into our lives as a family.
To many people, aging and death is a tragedy, but not to the Mormons. To them, it is the beginning of something beautiful, a beginning they will share eternally with those they love. The ideas have a gentle attraction and a strength. Looking at the Mormons from the perspective of an outsider is historian Grant McEwen, former Lieutenant Governor of Alberta and former Mayor of Calgary.
A lot of them. I've always admired people with industry, people with a sense of thrift, people who have a good sense of responsibility to obligations. And, of course, the Mormons have added greatly to the stature. They've been outstanding people socially, politically. They've been great orators. Some of our best leaders in Alberta have come from that Mormon community.
Mormon people are good Canadians. They have a spiritual attachment to Salt Lake City, but their homes and their hearts are here in Canada.
Talk to a Mormon and he won't claim to have all the answers, but neither will he have all the confusions that undermine so much of our world. He will have a strong faith in Jesus Christ and his teachings. In a time of doubt, this seems to make them secure.
I have just as many problems as any other teenager in the world, but it gives me guidelines and something to strive for. There's so much talk about, about whether there really is a God that sometimes you can get confused. But I know there is a God. I know God lives, and I know he's interested in me as a person, especially in these days when it's so hard on all of us.
My conversion to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints changed my life to one of gratitude, humility, peace, and inner contentment.